Opioids are plant parts. They come from poppies, and indigenous people in Asia were using poppies forever as painkillers or analgesics. In the mid to late 1800s, Bayer tried to become a more responsible corporate citizen, and they went to the back lab and they tweaked the morphine molecule, which was the plant part in poppies that was the painkillers, and turned it into diacetyl morphine. That's the chemical name for it, and it was marketed under the trade name Heroin. In the 60s and 70s, it was always a relatively minor problem compared to other substances. So alcohol has always been public enemy number one. And even in the 80s, cocaine far eclipsed opioid use in terms of prevalence. What happened in the 1990s, and this is a big part of the current heroin epidemic, is there was a big paradigm change. For decades, the only way you could really get a medication like morphine is if you had an acute pain generator, such as a surgery, or you broke a bone.
We all became aware we were doing a terrible job of treating pain. So there was this real push for doctors to be more aggressive in treating pain.
The pain societies decided that it would be okay to treat what is called, and this is sort of obtuse, chronic non-malignant pain. It was suddenly okay to give people pain medications for their chronic back pain. The other big development is there's an organization called the Joint Commission that accredits hospitals. If you are a hospital, you need to have that accreditation to receive payment, typically from Medicare as well as other health insurance companies. And the Joint Commission appropriately recognized in the 1990s that acute pain was undermanaged. So the Joint Commission mandated that we ask about pain as a fifth vital sign. The pain medications, the narcotic painkillers that came out in the 90s and in the last decade have been the long-acting narcotic painkillers. So one of the first ones was OxyContin. That's a trade name for an extended release or controlled release oxycodone. So oxycodone is the medicine, and they branded it as OxyContin. There are other long-acting opioids out there. MS-Contin is morphine that has been designed to burn longer. Vicodin, that's a short-acting painkiller. It's actually the most prescribed medication in the United States. Not just the most prescribed pain medication, it is the most prescribed medication in the United States of any medication.
Starting in the mid to late 90s, the United States started allowing direct-to-consumer advertising of prescription drugs. If you watch primetime television, commercial television, it's almost impossible in the evening not to see drug ads. So people are not only asking for these things, there's some research that just came out that showed the doctors find it very hard not to fill those prescriptions.
I think it was the perfect storm. I don't want to be too conspiratorial and suggest that Big Pharma, foisted this on us. I think that there were other factors that were leading to this, but they were more than happy to create products that met this new need that had been identified.
So, any questions before we officially start?
I just wish people would understand that it is like a disease.
It is a disease, and that was really hard for my brother to understand. He was really upset, and he was like, I just don't understand, you should be able to stop. And it's I know, but I tried to get him to research it, and it's been better, but yeah, it's just kind of hard to get people to see our side of it.
So let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience of addiction. Some people like opioids because we've got internal opioid receptors. Why are they there? Because the brain produces opioids, endorphins, and other similar substances. It's part of our pleasure system. So what happens then is if you bathe the brain in what would be massive quantities compared to internally produced substances, the brain tries to normalize itself. It's called homeostasis. It wants to stay the same. So it changes, it adapts. So there's this neuroadaptation process that occurs. After a period of time, these changes become permanent.
Well, I hate when people say it's a lack of willpower. But one of my best friends drank heavily for a while and then decided to stop. I was like, I don't understand why you don't just stop.
You can live without drinking alcohol, and those changes in control don't bother you after, let's say, a year or so. But with opioids, it's different. What happens is if you take away the external opioid, you stop using heroin, you stop using OxyContin, or whatever it is, you have an underperforming internal opioid system.
Literally, I did not know how to act when I wasn't high. Like, I didn't know how to talk to people. I didn't know how to work. Like, I did not know how to do anything without being high.
You can't experience ordinary pleasure. You don't feel good in your own skin. Every day's a lousy day. It's always gray, and you kind of feel vaguely depressed and irritable. That's what drives people back to using. That is so powerful that in one long-term study, a 30-year study of heroin addicts, people who had been abstinent from heroin for 15 years still had a 25% relapse rate.